Hello and welcome back to the Fit40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy people over 40 so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach for people over 40 since 2015. And today we have an awesome topic. I'm going to give you the top 5 healthy grocery shopping tips for busy adults that I could think of. These are the top 5 things that I've seen work extremely well over the years during one of the most important things in a fat loss phase, in a fitness journey, in an overall health journey, which is that shop to the grocery store. Okay. It matters a lot. So we're going to talk about it, and you're going to have some awesome tips that are going to help you navigate it in a much more productive way, save some money, and living a whole lot healthier. All right. But before we do, make sure before we begin to pause real quick, hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you're watching or listening so that way you don't miss another episode. All right. Now that you've paused and done that, let's get on with it. Top 5 top 5 healthy grocery shopping tips for busy adults. So let's kick it off with number 1, eat before you shop. Do not go to the grocery store hungry. It is a recipe for disaster. It will lead to a lot more impulse buys. That's not just around the store. Like, you're probably going to buy things you normally wouldn't, like when you're doing your rounds, but also at the checkout. Like, you're more likely to get that candy bar, that pack of nuts, that thing of popcorn, the bag of chips, and you're just trying to satisfy that craving that you have in the moment, and it's staring you right in the face. So normal people will usually give into that temptation. Okay. Also, buying more than you need. When you're looking at the different sizes of things, you're not going to say, let's get the smallest one. We really don't need that. Your hungry mind is going to go family size. Get that big ass thing. We don't want to not have food, right? But you're in most cases better off running out of food than having too much and wasting a bunch and feeling guilty about wasting. So then you end up consuming more. So it could also be getting comfortable with not having as much food in the house as you're normally used to. And when you're hungry, you're not going to really rationalize that. It's going to be harder to justify that in your head. So we want to make sure that we have a little something. And also convenience buys. You're going to be making purchases, like trying to get things that are convenient more so than things that are not convenient, just so you can get home a little bit faster. So instead of going and finding 5 different ingredients, you're going to be like, that frozen meal will do it, or something along those lines. And I only say this because I've actually done this many times. I'm a lazy piece of shit, but you got to learn how to overcome these things so that way you can get to the place that you want to get to. Okay. So eat a little something before you shop, and ideally something with protein and fiber in it, because that's going to fill you up really, really nice. And it's going to last longer than if you have that like tiny pack of nuts, or you have I don't know, something sugary, something like granola bar or something like that that's really tiny and doesn't really give you a whole lot. It's like 100 calories. I'm talking like have an actual meal beforehand. So if you can, like have lunch or have dinner and then go if you can. Okay. Next is pre-plan your meals. Actually, you know what? I want to back up. Also, another really good idea for eating before you shop, if you are in a pinch, because I've done this many times, is a protein bar. Like a good solid one that has about 20 grams of protein, maybe 5-6 grams of fiber, like Bear Bells, any of those legendary products like the legendary pastries or cinnamon buns, those are fine. Things like that will go a really long way. All right, now for number 2. Okay, number 2 is pre-plan your meals. Okay, if you know what you're going to eat, you will save a lot of money and time, because if you put it down on your grocery list and you're like, I'm getting these things and I have everything that I need, I don't need to go wandering thinking, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Maybe I should get a little of this, a little bit of that. No, when you say, hey, we're going to be eating this week, it's bing, bang, boom. We're in through the aisles, grabbing our things, and we're on to the next thing. We're not just wandering and trying to fill our time of the day. Most of us don't have more time to give. So this will be extremely, extremely helpful. And it's going to help a lot with food waste, because if you are buying things in the hopes of, this is healthy, I'm going to eat this, but I don't really know how, that is the stuff that usually gets wasted. Like those salad kits, like pretty much any vegetable that's you've found weeks later that's got a little bit of mold on it. You're like, man, I had good intentions for this thing, but it didn't quite make it onto the pan. Okay. You will not have that issue if you already know it's going in a recipe. And on top of that, you're more likely to hit your targets. So if you have a calorie or a macro target and you say, whether you're utilizing ChatGPT to help you create these recipes based on your numbers, like I do that for clients all the time. It's extremely helpful. If you do that, then it's like, okay, you're going to nail these numbers. Or if you have something a little bit more flexible, like one of the approaches I utilize is PFC, like protein, fiber, color. If you say, hey, I like ChatGPT again, hey, I need meals for the week that are going to have lean protein, fiber, and color in them, and make me a grocery list. Bang, it's done. And you are going to hit those targets because now you have the food that you need to cook what you need to cook. It's just a matter of putting it on the pan and doing the damn thing. Number 3 is reading the product labels. You want to be conscious of exactly what is in these labels. And I'm not talking about chemophobia, like where you're like, oh, I can't pronounce the ingredient. That's bad. No, that's just illiterate or illiteracy. Okay. I'm not talking like that. I'm saying understand when it comes to macronutrients, for example, protein, carbs, fats. When it comes to protein, you want to make sure that it's a lean protein. And you see this a lot with fattier sources like bacon or sausage or things like that, but you can find some winners in those groups. Like for example, turkey bacon. There is a spectrum of quality. Like there are the low quality ones where it's a like 1-to-1 ratio of fat to protein, where it's got like 3 grams of protein, 3 grams of fat. But then when you find leaner cuts that are like higher quality cuts, you might find one that's like 6 or 7 grams of protein and then maybe 2 or 3 grams of fat. So now you're getting more protein, less fat, and it's going to fuel your body better. It's going to result in eating less overall calories. So that'll help a ton. Same with like sausage. You will be surprised when you compare the two products side by side, like see how many calories there are, see how much protein, see how much fat, and take a look and just see if this is my protein source, which one would I rather? When it comes to carbs, are we getting any fiber in there? One of the best rules I like to follow is if you're trying to find a fibrous carb source, okay, something that is a quote unquote healthy carb or a good carb or a complex carb, you want at least 3 grams of fiber per 100 calories. So if you can find that, awesome. And if you can't find that in whatever you're having, just understand, hey, I'm going to have to add fiber elsewhere. So get some fruits and veggies or something to beef it up. Just don't count that as your carb source if you are trying to do things like help with regulating blood sugars, bring your calories down by filling yourself up more. If it doesn't have the fiber, it's just not going to fill you up quite as much. Fats, you want to be conscious of saturated fat content. This is a big one. Okay. When it comes to saturated fat, the waters are a little bit muddied because people are trying to make it out like, oh, it's no big deal. But at the end of the day, when we look at the studies, it's very freaking clear that when you have elevated saturated fat content, it puts you in a worse position health-wise. Okay, so we want to limit our saturated fat, not eliminate. We can limit it, and we want about 10% or less of our calories from saturated fat per day. And you'll see that reflected on the label. Whatever that percentage is, like it'll have the saturated fat, and it'll say certain percentage. That percentage is based on 10% of the estimated amount that they use, which is 2,000 calories. So if you're following, say, a 2,000 calorie diet and that percentage is about like 30% or less that you see next to saturated fat, you're good to go. Because if we're having 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, just divide everything by 3. And that's ideally what we're looking at there. So you want to kind of think in your head, okay, this is per meal. So if I can do a third of what I need for the day, that's about right. So if it's 30% or less on saturated fat, bing, you're good to go. Yeah. So now number 4, time-saving options. This is one of my favorites because it is one of those things that people get guilted about where it's like, do you really have to spend that extra money on that? Or it's frozen. It's not the same. Well, guess what? It's the same, if not better in certain instances. So number 1, when it comes to this time savers is pre-cut stuff. Does it cost a little bit extra? Yes. But is it worth it to not waste food and to actually use those vegetables that you have in the refrigerator rotting right now? Yes. Because if we're not wasting as much food, we're saving more money overall because we're not filling it in with other foods that we're eating instead of that. And then along with that, there are some places that will cut it for free. I mean, I believe when I go to Lowe's, I haven't done this just yet. I'm going to try it out, but like Lowe's Foods, it's down here in North Carolina. I think it's more of a southern chain of grocery store. I didn't have it back in New Jersey, but and I didn't see it in West Virginia either. But who knows? Maybe it's out there. But they will take your vegetables, not frozen, like the fresh ones, and cut it up for you and bag it. And I believe there's no extra charge. But honestly, if it was like $1, I would pay that every day of the week just to save me that like 5-10 minutes of cutting everything myself. Next is frozen veggies. People have a really negative opinion of frozen veggies because they're like, it's just not the same. It's like, it's not the same as fresh. But guess what? It is flash frozen at its peak. So when you are cooking it back up from frozen, you are getting it at its peak nutritional level. Now, that being said, the texture is different. So if it's a texture thing, obviously totally different. And honestly, I prefer getting stuff that is not frozen for that reason when I can. But it definitely helps to just have it on tap in the freezer because let's say, yeah, you do go through your fresh produce for 1 week, but the next week you don't quite use it as much and maybe some of them go bad. Guess what? You get that frozen bag ready to go, so you're not having vegetables that night. So it helps to have them on tap as long as you're not like letting them sit for months and months and months. And I still think a lot of them last a pretty damn long time because they're flash frozen. And then the last is frozen meals, like full on meals, just as long as they're not too high in sodium, because that is the trade-off that comes with a lot of frozen meals is that it does have a lot of sodium and we need to be conscious of that. So we want about in that ballpark of 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. And I believe that is what they base the percentage on when you see the food label. So if you can find something that is about 30% or less, when it comes to sodium on a frozen meal, and you can get a solid amount of protein in there, like 20, 30 grams, you get a decent amount of fiber in there, like 5 grams or more, like call it a win. Like that's a good one just to have, again, on tap whenever you need it, so that way you have a better option than ordering off of DoorDash or grabbing something on your way back from work that's fast food or a convenience store or something like that. And last but not least, this one is a new age solution. It is ordering your groceries. So any of those services that'll bring it to you, I think Uber does it. We got DoorDash does it. I don't know if they do like full on grocery orders, but you've got Instacart, things like that. It's a gigantic time saver because all you do is plug your stuff in and say, okay, drop it off to me later. So if you're a super busy person and you just don't have a minute because you're working all day and you're the kid's taxi for the other half of the day and you just have no time to even get there, this is huge. And there's also less impulse buys because when you are typing it out intentionally, you're not going down the aisles, you're not seeing these things, smelling these things, and you're not getting overwhelmed by your senses pushing you to make these buys you don't actually want to buy. And overall, you're probably going to save more money because of that. Because if you're not making these extra purchases or upgrading to the family size bag or whatever, if you add all those little extra charges up, you're probably covering the delivery fee or more. And it's easier when you have a family that I know I used to do this to my mom. I'm so sorry, Mom. I apologize. I understand how hard it is now. But when you go to the grocery store and you get what they ask for and they're like, that's not the right one. And you're just like, damn it. Like there's no worse feeling when you're like, I feel like I did a good job. And then they're like, that's not the right one. I sympathize with all the moms out there and all the fiancés such as myself who get the wrong thing accidentally. But when you are doing this on your phone, you can literally hand it to your kids or your spouse or whoever and say, hey, pick the exact one that you want. Okay. And that will help a lot with just everybody being happy. Okay. So these are my top 5 things. I hope you learned or picked up 1 or 2 things that you're like, I'm going to do that. So just a quick recap, like just eat before you shop, pre-plan your stuff, pre-plan your meals and make that grocery list, read the labels. Make sure that you're using time-saving options when you can, just so you have things on tap, and order your groceries online if you can. Okay, now these are only 5. This is my top 5. But guess what? I have a whole list of 12 of these tips and tricks that you can utilize whenever you're going grocery shopping. So if you want the whole list, go and download my guide of grocery store tricks and tips. The link is down below in the description or show notes, wherever you're watching or listening. And as an added bonus in there, I know I alluded to PFC, like protein, fiber, color. That's one of the systems I teach my clients, and it is awesome for not only eating at home, but eating anywhere. As long as you get PFC on the plate, you know that, hey, this is going to help me with my goals. This is going to help me feel so much better than just ordering the fatty, salty, like stuff that we usually lean on. And it will help so much going forward when you can master that concept. So I put in my PFC cheat sheet to help you plan meals and get really good at doing that with these grocery store tips. So if you want both of those, just again, go and click that link. You won't regret it. There's so much incredible information in there. All right, but that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. I appreciate you so much. If you have a second, drop a 5-star review. I love seeing them, and it does help the podcast out a lot. But that's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Go kick some ass. Bye-bye.